Hey everybody, it is Romania Black, and we're on episodes 34, 35, and 36 of Ace of the Diamond. We're in the middle of the Seiko game. We're at the end of the Seiko game, actually. We're at, the 8th inning, so it's the end of the game. We literally have 2 innings left. And this show, it just knows how to get you antsy, right? Because Furuya was on fire the last set of episodes. He was doing so good. And then that damn Achilles heel, that damn Achilles ankle came in, giving him trouble. And so Sawamura came in. And I was really... we've talked about this on Patreon in the comments. And as this is coming out, the last of episodes will be coming out on YouTube. So I'm sure y'all will talk about it there with me as well. But I was talking about how I really wasn't amped on Sawamura going into this game. I had really hoped that it would be Furuya and Nori's game, because Nori needs some character development. He does. And we've gotten hints of it throughout all of Season 2. We're 34 episodes into Season 2, and they keep on telling us, the manager's the only one who has faith in Nori. He's just like, Nori's the best, Kawakami. But we haven't gotten a lot of Nori development, and I feel like it's there. It's just waiting. So I'm like, okay, well, if we win this game, then next game we have to do something with Nori, because we're nearing the 3rd act of Season 2. We're nearing the 3rd part of Season 2, like towards the end, right? There's only 51 episodes. So yeah, we're only on episode 34, but we're way past the halfway point. So I feel like Nori is going to get some development. Whether or not it happens in this game, at this point, I don't want Sawamura to get taken out. So it's kind of a weird thing. I came into this game thinking it would be Furuya, and I didn't think Furuya would play all 9 innings. I was like, something will happen, because his stamina is not up to par yet, as it needs to be. So I figured Nori would come in, because we've established that Sawamura is not the best match for Seiko. And I was like, okay. But then a lot of us commented and talked about this on Patreon, that Sawamura had better mental fortitude to handle the pressure of Seiko in these last 2 innings than Nori. Again, making me want character development with Nori even more. I want Nori to get to that point where he is reliable. Because I think Kateoka doesn't think Nori is unreliable, but the fact that he wouldn't bring him in this game shows that he kind of doesn't think that he can handle the pressure. And I'm like, I want Nori to be able to handle the pressure. He's going to be a 3rd year next year. He needs to step up his game. And so I'm waiting for that character development. But I was happy our Sunshine Boy was coming in, but now, because of that home run, that 2-run homer, it's tied the game, and I'm like, And of course, everybody's freaked out and nervous. Sawamura is trying to keep his own, even though he's shaking. I'm like, you guys need to rely on Sawamura. But yeah, I'm afraid that Kateoka is going to take Sawamura out when he just put him in, and I'm like, I don't want him to do that, because Sawamura's worked so hard to get this point. I feel like Sawamura needs to work beyond this. This is a test as an ace. Things like this can happen. One pitch can make all the difference. I know, Kelsey, I think you commented that on Patreon. One pitch can make all the difference. And he needs to work past it and figure out, okay, as an ace, what do I do in this situation? Kind of like what Tamba did back in Season 1. When you have a bad play, you just move through it, kind of like what Sanada has done with Yakushi. And so I want Sawamura to do that. I want him to prove to his team that, yeah, if something bad like this happens, we just roll on and we just move through it. So, but it's the semifinals, it's Seiko, the game is tied, we have like an inning and a half left, so what do we do? So I'm very curious. But yeah, going into these episodes, I'm like, I don't want them to take out Sawamura, but if they take him out and put Nori in, I won't be surprised. I'll just be kind of pissed off about it. I'm like, no, let him finish out the game. Let him finish it out. Have some faith in Sawamura. I swear, our Sunshine Boy, he has proven himself time and time again, but the moment he makes like the slightest slip up, everyone loses faith in him. I'm like, have you guys been watching this same person these last 2 seasons? So we're going to watch episodes 34, 35, and 36. I'm pretty sure that the game will get over in this. And I feel like they're going to win, because that leaves the rest of the season to do the finals with... I think Yakushi's going to win the other match. I think Ichidai 3rd's going down, because it's Raichi and Sanada. I'm the biggest Yakushi fan. If I could have a jersey in this show, it would be the Todoroki jersey. I would take Sanada's jersey too, but I would have Todoroki's jersey, and I would wear it to an actual baseball game. The fact that I'm contemplating wanting to go to an actual baseball game speaks volumes for what this series has done, because before watching Ace of the Diamond, I had 0 interest in baseball, and now I'm like, I want to go watch a game so that I can pick it apart. So yeah, let's get started, shall we? It is cold out, and I'm ready to go. So we're going to start Ace of the Diamond, Season 2, Episode 34, here in 3, 2, 1, and let's go. This was a really, really good set of episodes. The whole Seiko game. I think that the Seiko matchup, honestly, I think in terms of my favorite games in this series so far, the Seiko matchup is up there. It's definitely up there. I don't know. Sato versus Inashiro is still like one of the better games. And the whole matchup with Ugamori, that one was really good as well. But this matchup has been the Seiko matchup has been very interesting. But this game with Yakushi versus Ichidai looks like it's going to be extremely interesting too. What a weird character Kosei is. What a weird character. We're going to talk about this. These 3 episodes were really, really good. And I want to go back and check something out. With old Mishima. With Mishima here. I'm so curious, right? So I wanted to go back and check something out here to see. Because Mishima, the idea that a catcher and pitcher are interchangeable people, I guess it makes sense that you could do that, but it's so curious. Very interesting. But yeah, we'll talk about this when we get to it. But these episodes, rounding out the Seiko game, and there's a lot of things I really liked that this episode did. But starting with episode 4, episode 34, I had the least notes about. Innocent. But I'm so glad that Sawamura was okay through all this. This series is the frustrating thing of when it leaves on a cliffhanger, you think it's going to be the worst case scenario, and then it's somehow picked. I'm glad it picked itself back up, and I'm like, oh, thank God Sawamura is mentally okay at the end of this game. Because going into the finals, I knew that Sato was probably going to win, because I don't know now. Yeah, I think Yakushi will still win against Ichidai, because they're going to have that rematch. I really think it's still going to happen. But the question is going to be how are they going to win? Because Kosei's not going to make it easy, right? And I'm glad that Sawamura is in a good headspace going into this, because I think they're going to need it. I'm a little concerned about what the prognosis with Furuya is going to be. This could be a chance for Nori to shine, because thank God Nori got some confidence in this game too. But we'll talk about this. So Sawamura getting that first out. I love that we have the duality of Furuya and Sawamura being inspired by each other. Like, Sawamura took Furuya's courage from the last set of episodes and applied it to this, being like, we can do this. And he pushed through past the pressure and was able to get the out. Thank God. And I love Miyuki in this episode. This set of episode, if the last set was Furuya's, this set was Miyuki's. Because, God, Miyuki, I am worried about Miyuki, though. I am in total agreement with Furuya that he should have gone to the hospital, too. I am in total agreement with Furuya. I was like, Furuya was right. If I'm going, you're going. I'm in total agreement. I think that Miyuki not going is... Miyuki just doesn't want to admit that he's hurt. And I'm like, you have the finals next. You don't need to be in that situation, so I am a little bit worried about that. But yeah, Miyuki saying, I'm so blessed to be able to catch for these 3 pitchers. Like, and Miyuki, like, being there for Sawamura, and we'll talk about it being reversed. It's so good. But yeah, Ogawa. Ogawa was an interesting, Sune Ogawa was an interesting guy in this. And I feel like he's kind of in the May boat where that loss is going to spurn him to grow as a player, right? Because he's only a first year. But him saying he didn't want any of the first years to outshine him. He wanted to be the first year on top. And going into overtime, into extra innings. You all have told me how extra innings work. That's really the first team to score. And then I was like, okay, is that really how this is going to go down? And it did. But yeah, I love that Ogawa has this revelation that he's like, at first, he thought baseball was easy. And because it was easy, it wasn't fun. And that kind of applies to Kosei later on when he says, I don't want to just get an easy win. I want to be satisfied with my win. I want to go up against a team at the height of their power, and we're at the height of our power, and I want that win to taste good. I don't want it to be just an easy win. And that's kind of what Ogawa is saying, too, in this. He didn't think baseball was hard, but now that it is, it's more fun. It's more fun when you don't get the easy win. It's fun when you get the hard win. That's what he's saying, and I really like that. Higasa! I want to give a shout out to Higasa. Higasa in these episodes, he's proven his worth. He's out there in the field, fielding, and he did a good job in these games, helping to get that double play and everything, helping to get that guy out on first. Like, Higasa, he's proving himself. I like that you see these side characters from behind the scenes, like, slowly building themselves up and having these little moments where you're like, he did really good. But I like Higasa. He's our younger Tamba with the pursed lips. Like, he did really good. And then Masu is interesting in this game, like towards the end here, him trying to communicate with Ogawa, but we need to talk about Ogawa just straight up tackling Miyuki. Like, this is not football. Holy crap. I'm amazed they let him keep playing. I was like, which I guess the umpire was like, look, your first year, you can't do this. But that really hurt Miyuki. And that's the, and Miyuki kept the ball, but that, I'm like, I don't think Miyuki's okay. I don't think he is. I think he's just, because Miyuki's the captain and he's trying to be strong for the team, but Furuya can see right through it. And Furuya's like, something's wrong, because he knows what that feels like, right? But I get that Ogawa and Masu are like, winning wouldn't feel good. That line afterwards, where Ogawa, he tackles Miyuki, and then they lose, they're going into extra innings, and Masu's like, look, you're an idiot. You should not have done that. He's like, I get why you did it. I get you want to win. But that line, winning like that wouldn't feel good anyway. I see that's a big difference between Inashiro, because when Sawakura, the redhead, when the redhead got hit and was like, ha ha ha, well, look what we did to you, Sawamura, and initiated the whole yips thing. Masu is saying, we don't have that mentality. We're not going to play dirty. Like, it wouldn't feel like a good win if we'd played dirty, right? That's how I feel. And I know that wasn't a dirty play because Sawamura did hit him in the head, but his reaction for Inashiro was very different than Masu and Seiko's reaction when Ogawa literally just tackled Miyuki to the ground. Which, Miyuki's not a small guy. He's thick. Our boy Miyuki's thick, and so is Ogawa, so I'm like, that had to have hurt. But yeah, I also think it's interesting as the connection between the two. You have Ogawa, who the people in the stands were like, is he going to be ejected for violence? He wasn't. He was given a talking to about how you don't do that. But I thought it was a connection to Ogawa wanting to win, and that's why he became violent. And that understanding that Coach Kumakiri supposedly kicked the player, but it was under the guise of him wanting them to win. So there's a connection between Ogawa and the coach's supposed actions and them wanting to win. Not that it's right? Not that it's right, but that there is a connection there. I think Miyuki's hurt. Going into episode 35, I'm like, I think Miyuki's hurt. I don't like where this is going. I'm like, you guys, I know you're teenagers and you think you're invincible, but I feel like the incident with Tamba and Chris has given Sato enough caution that they're like, we know how bad this can get, so we want to make sure we nip it in the bud now and it doesn't get any worse, right? We don't want to destroy careers. We don't want Furuya's career ended. And I'm like, Miyuki, if you're hurt, you don't need to be going any further. But Miyuki wants to play. Miyuki and Furuya are similar in that they want to play no matter what. Furuya is addicted to being on the mound, being the pitcher, and Miyuki is addicted to being the catcher. Like, Miyuki's like, I'm the best catcher on the team. I'm the captain. I'm the cleanup. He's like, I got to be the 3 C's. I need to play. But it's like, if you're injured and you bring the team down, that's a problem, right? And I think Furuya is calling him out on that in episode 36, but we'll get to episode 36. So when we went into episode 35, and Kachioka said, okay, I'm going to have you, Sawamura, pitch the first 2 guys. You get them out, and then I'm going to bring Nori in. And for that split second, Sawamura starts to get dejected, like, I'm only going to pitch, I was only in for 2 innings, and now I'm going to get... And for a split second, you think that Sawamura is going to blame himself and think that he's getting taken out because he allowed them to tie the game. It looks like Sawamura has that thought in his head, but that moment that Kachioka brings him in to like, give him the embrace, I was like... Because Kachioka looks at him and he's like, this is for the team. He's like, I'm not taking you out because you did something wrong. I'm not taking you out because you allowed them to tie. That's not it. But it's for the team. We need to strategize what's best. And to take Nagata out, we need to bring something to the table that he's not expecting. And it's not only that. It's not only bringing to the table a pitcher that's good against Seiko, because I would argue they built up that Nori is the ideal pitcher against them. But it's also Kachioka telling Sawamura, we need to build Nori's confidence so he's part of the team too. Because that's been my whole thing this whole season. This whole season has been about Sawamura and Furuya growing as pitchers, which has been amazing, and I've loved the growth that both of them have taken together, but it's come at the cost of Nori taking the back seat and just kind of being like, you feel that Nori questions his reliability. You feel like Nori questions whether or not he's good for the team because he's kind of like off to the sidelines. And in this moment, Kateoka's like, we need to bring him in because we got finals tomorrow and we're going to win. We've got finals tomorrow. Nori needs to have that confidence. And I love that Sawamura is like, okay. Yeah, that's the thing. That's why I love Sawamura. Sawamura, he doesn't dwell on it. Sawamura doesn't dwell on it. He doesn't think badly of it. As soon as the coach tells him the reason that they're doing it, Sawamura accepts it and he's like, okay, cool, we'll do that then. I'm like, yes, thank you. I'm like, good. I'm glad that Sawamura is on board with this. And Nori coming in afterwards to take out Nagata. It's just so good. Episode 35, I think the thumbnail will come from that episode because there's so many good moments in it. And then Ochi trying to figure it out. You know, Kelsey said on Patreon, she's like, Ochi just smoked a lot of weed before this game, and that's why he's fine. Yeah, Oda gave him some edibles, and then he just had a great day. Ochi is different, and I don't know if it's the fact that as they're getting closer to them going into the finals and going into nationals, I don't know if it's Ochi resigning himself to the fact that if they win, he's not going to go with them, or what. I don't know if that's the case or what the deal is, but Ochi has acted different this last set of episodes and this set of episodes. Ochi has acted more contemplative and not nearly as slimy as he usually is. And somebody commented saying that maybe he realized that Furuya was not going to be his end-all pitcher. And we'll talk about that strategy here in a little bit. But Ochi is trying to figure out, like, Kateoka's strategy and trying to figure out why he's doing the things that he's doing, which I think is interesting. I'm like, okay, cool. I had no problems with Ochi last episodes or this one, which is unusual, so I feel uneasy about it. I'm like, Ochi, are you getting ready to make me hate you again, or is this turning a new leaf? I don't know. I don't know. Some of you said that upon second watch, Ochi is better, and I'm like, I may have to go back and rewatch some episodes and be like, interesting. But Nori coming in and getting his moment. And the moment that because Nori has this thing, when they animate Nori in this series, they do something where Nori constantly looks scared. And the other team even notices, it's like a fourth wall breaking. They're like, the pitcher looks scared. And it's like, but Nori's not really scared necessarily. He's just always like, not even tense. Like, Nori's concentration is different, right? But the moment that he smiles, and Miyuki, you're a good catcher, dude. You know how to play these pitchers oh so well, because Nori's like, when he gets the call to make the pitch, because he's been working on the sinker this whole time, and Tamba and them in the stands, they think he's going to bring out the sinker, but Miyuki makes the call that he's going to use the pitch he's comfortable with. Like, it goes back to that whole practice the basics, know the basics, perfect what you're good at. And it's like, there's been all this tension and doubt with Nori, where Ochi suggested he learn the sinker again, where Nori's like, I don't know how I feel about the sinker. Is that really me? And in that moment where he has Nagata cornered, Miyuki makes the call. He's like, let's just go with the basics. Let's go with what your favorite pitch is. And that's what he suggests. And I love that Nori says, he's like, I don't want this. He's like, I don't want to be on the mound to compete with the first years. He's like, that's not it. He's like, I know Sawamura and Furuya are growing, and yeah, I want to keep up with them, but I'm not doing this for them. I'm doing this for myself. He's like, I want to do this because I want to prove my capabilities. And it's like, it's weird. It's not being conceited, even though he says he's doing it for himself. It's not in a conceited way. It's like he wants to make himself the best that he can be for the team, right? And he's like, I need to prove that I'm capable, that I can be someone that's reliable for our team. And I love that. I love that about Nori. And then, Nori, he gets the slider is what he's been waiting for. The pitch, what was his best. And Miyuki's like, it's better than I could have expected. So good. And then that's when they go off the field, that's when Furuya notices something's wrong. And I think this is really important. Furuya and Sawamura the way that they help Miyuki is very in line with their characters, right? Because this whole game, I kept commenting in the reaction, Furuya's not a cheer, let's go kind of person. He stays in the background. Furuya's very quiet, but he's observant. Furuya's not dumb. He's observant. And he's just very introverted and reserved. And so Sawamura is the polar opposite. Sawamura is like gung-ho optimist, like extrovert, sunshine boy. So when Miyuki comes off, Sawamura in his own way, in his own sunshine boy way, is trying to help Miyuki, being like, here's some amino acids, drink up Miyuki, stay healthy, you want a towel? Like, he's just being super helpful. Furuya is very contemplative and is like, hey, you're sweating a lot, are you okay? Like, I love that they both come at helping Miyuki from a way that is very in line with their character, and it feels very genuine. I really liked that. And of course, because Miyuki's a chaotic troll, and he's the captain, and he doesn't want to let his team down, and he doesn't want to seem weak in the moment, he's like, no, I'm fine. And I'm like, you are not fine, sir. That moment when he, like, lifted his arm up to take the gear off, and it, like, strained, I'm sure he's, like, injured there, it strained it, and he's like, I'm like, dude, you need to get some ice or something, because you need to be in top shape for tomorrow. And I feel like he should have gone to the hospital with Furuya. I feel like he should have done that, but he didn't. But yeah, Miyuki, our captain. Oh my gosh. Miyuki, that whole thing. Then we come down to the play of the game. And God, Miyuki was just, I loved this. I was so afraid he was going to pull something. And it all comes down to, I like that after the game, Masu says that they both were greedy. Because they both were. I thought Ogawa was greedy at first, and then Masu says he was greedy, and I'm like, But yeah, Masu and Ogawa, they both got greedy. At first, Masu's like, I wanted to walk him. Which, in hindsight, I thought Ogawa got greedy, because if they had gone with Masu's plan to walk him, I think they would have won the game. I think eventually Nori had the great inning. He got out. He had his moment. But that's really he only had the one batter to get out. Nori had that one time. So we'll talk about that at the end of this discussion about Nori and the final. Whoever wins that. But in that moment, Ogawa wanted to prove himself. He's like, is this guy underestimating me? Does he think I'm not good enough against him? The reality is, no, Miyuki's hurt, and that's why he's not paying attention, because he's so focused on the pain. But Ogawa takes it as Miyuki's underestimating him. So he's like, I want to prove myself, and I want to give him this. Inside of the chest, I was like, I kept thinking he was going to hit Miyuki, and I was like, that's going to be it. Miyuki's going to be out. But Masu's like, no, we need to walk him, because he's a scary batter. We don't need to underestimate him. It's like they were just not quite in sync. And then when they got in sync, Masu's like, fine, we'll do it your way, Ogawa. And that wasn't the right decision. Because yeah, if they had just walked Miyuki, if they just walked him, they probably could have got Zono out, and then they probably could have scored a run off of Nori and ended the game themselves. But one pitch, y'all have said it's just one pitch, that's all it takes. And Ogawa's like, no, I'll get him. And Miyuki, he's like, and the thing of it is, it's such a growth moment for Miyuki too, because Miyuki's still reflecting on that loss against Inashiro, and he's like, I want to take this team to nationals. He's not just doing it for himself. And Miyuki's always kind of been, and the third years even comment on it afterwards. They're like, wow, you've grown as a coach and a player, because you kind of were all about yourself for a long time, and now you're thinking about everybody else. And Yuki's like, that's why I made him captain, so that it would force him to grow up. It's like, but yeah, he wants the team to go to nationals, and that's when he hits the homer. It's so satisfying. It's such a satisfying moment. That shot of Miyuki running to the base with his arm held up, I was like, it's so good. It's so good. And Masu says at the end, he's like, we're both to blame. Masu ended up going with Ogawa's request because he wanted to give. It's that weird disconnect between the pitcher and the catcher. Ogawa wanted to prove himself, and at first Ogawa wanted to prove himself, and Masu wanted to play it safe. And in the end, Ogawa's demand, Masu's like, well, I want to give Ogawa confidence because he thinks that they're going to win. And he's like, if we play tomorrow, I want Ogawa to go in confident. So they get overeager, they get greedy, both of them do, and Masu caves, and he's like, fine, I'll get you, you can pitch the way you want to, Ogawa, and it'll give you confidence, because Masu realizes he doesn't want to shut Ogawa down and make him discouraged for the game tomorrow, but they're always, anytime teams start thinking ahead, it's like, you're kind of setting yourself up, you're getting too ahead of yourselves, and that's when they both fall. So yeah. And then episode 36. What a weird episode. Rematch. What a weird episode. There's lots of stuff going on in this episode, and it's quite strange. I'm like, okay. So we have Coach Kumakiri, which that was such a cheesy moment. It was very cheesy, but it was also hilarious. Like, he's like, I'm just a folk singer. It's like, you have the raspiest smoker voice ever. No one's going to believe you're a folk singer. That's great. I like that little tongue-in-cheek moment, and they're all like, we could recognize you by your voice. So it means he's been talking out loud this whole time. Which he's been yelling for the team, so of course they recognize him. I do like that everyone in the stands is supportive of him returning. They're like, hey, even though our guys lost, we're waiting for you to come back and coach them again. Because they understand. So some of you were questioning in the comments whether or not Kumakiri really got suspended for kicking a player, whether it was really the parents' involvement, or if it was because performance and the school just had him back down. At this point, I don't know what it was. Because it seems like the Ogawa callback with him getting violent against Miyuki would be a connection to that, to him actually kicking the student. But then, was it or was it not? I guess that's not important at the end of the day. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter how he got suspended. It's the fact that everyone wants him to come back, and they all have faith in him. And he's humbled by that. He's like, oh, you guys want me to come back? Okay. Like that, at the end of the day, that's what counts, is that the players want him to come back, and the people in the community want him to come back. And it's kind of like a humbling moment for him, like, and I feel like it connects to Kateoka. There were people don't want Kateoka to leave. They didn't want Kumakiri to leave. So who knows at this point, right? Who knows how it's going to end up? But I thought that connection was very interesting. And then, God, I love Yakushi. I love them. It's mainly my love of Sanada and Raichi. Raichi is just like a feral beast, and I absolutely adore him. And Sanada's like a swimsuit model over here. He's just the big playboy, like, hey guys. It doesn't help that he has Levi Ackerman's voice. Does not help at all. Does not help, because that voice acting, you can just tell it's him, even though the voice is much more cheerful than Levi on Attack on Titan. Much more cheerful. But so they're like, we don't know if it's 32 wins or 34 wins, and then the other team confirms it's 33 wins in a row. Our boys are formidable, right? Our boys are formidable, and they are already wanting a rematch against Sato. That gives me a little bit of a red flag concern, because I'm like, especially with Kosei at the end of this episode, I'm like, maybe Yakushi won't win. Maybe the OP is a lie. Maybe the cake is a lie, and the OP is just letting us think it's going to be a rematch between Yakushi or a rematch between Yakushi and Sato when it's not. But I don't know. I still feel like Yakushi's going to win. And I feel like that's going to be, because here's the thing. Yakushi's confident in themselves. They are arrogant. They're like, we're going to win, but it's because they're confident in their own abilities and themselves as a team. And I think that that's going to be something that will affect Sato going into finals. Do we still have the same conviction and belief in ourselves as a team as Yakushi does? And I think that's going to be put to the test if Furuya and Miyuki are both injured. That's going to put it to the test. So I'm like, if Sato loses this final because of Miyuki's injuries and him not saying anything and Furuya having the ankle injury, I'm gonna be pissed. I'm gonna be like, damn it, no! But, okay. So yeah, Raichi and Yakushi, they want the rematch. Kosei! What a weird character. He's been weird this whole time, but we haven't really gotten a lot of focus on him. And we do in this episode. He's so odd. He's so odd. He's not like Goya. He's not like Go from Oya. Goya. He's not like Go from Oya. Go was constantly like in his head calculating. Shunshin was always in his head calculating. With Go, there was like an arrogance to it, like a cockiness, where he's like, okay, if I do this and do that and do... And Shunshin wasn't cocky, but he was very calculating and very like meticulous and to the point. Kosei is thinking about things and contemplative, but it's in such a weird, laid-back fashion. He's like, okay, well, something's off. I don't feel quite right. What's up with me today? Like, I need to... Like, he's off in his own headspace, right? He's off in his own headspace thinking about things and just being casual with it. But as he's being casual, he's pitching really good. So, it's funny. There's such a weird duality at first before Kosei monologues, where Kosei wants revenge. And that thing in the locker room where he just got under Ogawa's skin, like he just like dug the knife in, he's like, doesn't it feel embarrassing to lose? And Ogawa's like, I hate this guy. Because Kosei's so calm about it. And it's intentional, right? It's very much, it's like Ugamori. It's very Ume Miya, like him getting under Ogawa's skin reminded me of Ume Miya, like in the bathroom with Sawamura and them. And I was like, you guys aren't even playing. You aren't even playing Seiko and you're trying to get under his skin. But Kosei has a weird, that aspect of Kosei reminded me of Umemiya a little bit. And the team calls him airheaded. The team's like, you're an airhead. Like, you're just thinking, what are you doing? What's going on? You're arrogant and cocky and an airhead. But the coach calls him a genius. And that duality, like he seems airheaded and cocky, but he's a genius. And that's going to come back here in a second with my notes here. But yeah, Ogawa hates him. And so yeah, Kosei's so weird. But before we get into that with Kosei, Miyuki wants Furuya to go to the hospital with Oda. With I'm glad that we got the manager's name, Oda. I know y'all have told me it, but I always forget it. And I'm like, okay, Oda's the manager. We got Rei and Oda. And Furuya's like, you should go too. I'm in total agreement. I'm like, yeah, Miyuki, you should go get checked out too, just to be safe, right? But he doesn't. And then, yeah, Zono talks about Miyuki stealing the show. And the third years are like, yeah, Miyuki, you stole the show, but you've really softened as a person. Like, you complimenting the pitchers, talking about the team in such a positive light. Like, you've softened, you've mellowed, you've changed. And Yuki's like, that was my intention. I love Yuki in these episodes because he's so calm and collected. He reminds me a lot of Kateoka in these episodes. And I feel like Yuki could go on to be a coach at Seido, like Kateoka was. I feel like Yuki's being groomed to be the next coach for Seido. And I would really like that. I like that his brother Masashi seems like total opposite. He's like, I don't want to be a coach. I want to go pro and be better than my big bro. And I'm like, I like that dynamic. But yeah, Miyuki proving himself to be a captain. But Furuya's like, yeah, you're trying to put on a tough act, but Furuya's like, I put on a tough act too. We're not so different, you and I. You need to go get checked out. And I'm like, Furuya's absolutely right. I'm afraid that his suggestion is going to come back to haunt us. But I love that the grandpa's so like tough love grandpa. He's like, you finally found yourself. He doesn't say he's proud of Furuya because he's a tough grandpa. He won't do that. But he's like, you finally found yourself a team. And it's like, yeah, Furuya found himself a team. And I love that moment. And then I love that Oda tells Furuya, he's like, your grandpa's been coming to practice games. He's been watching you. He's been looking after you. Like, he is proud of you. Like, saying, like, yeah, you know, your grandpa really thinks something of you. And Furuya's like, okay. It's very cute. It's very, very, very cute. So, yeah, Akiba, I kept getting confused at first because I thought they said Akiba was the catcher and then he was the pitcher. But Akiba and Mishima can switch. Again, I didn't realize that catchers and pitchers could switch roles. That's kind of insane because I was talking a few episodes ago about both the catcher and pitcher remind me of the setter position in Haikyuu. And this proves that they're kind of together create that position because, yeah, Akiba being the catcher and the pitcher, they're not bringing Sanada out yet. They're waiting on Sanada. I was like, oh, of course they are. Of course they're waiting on Sanada. They ain't gonna bring out their best guy yet. I wanted to go back through this episode. So Akiba is number 2, which means he's maybe the main catcher because isn't the catcher always number 2? So Akiba is the main catcher, but he also can pitch, right? And Raichi is number 5, of course. Got that. And then I wanted to see if we ever found out. I like that Kosei gives Raichi a hard time. Like, Kosei makes Raichi swing and miss, but Raichi is, if anything, perseverant. He is, if anything, persevering. Raichi is a monster, but Raichi is one of my favorite characters in this show because there is nothing malicious about Raichi. There is nothing sinister about Raichi. He is the pure sunshine boy, just like Sawamura. I would argue Sawamura is a little bit more analytical than Raichi, if you can believe it. If you can believe that Sawamura is more analytical than Raichi. Sawamura uses his brain more than Raichi. Raichi is like one mode. Bat mode. That's it. I am Batman. That is it. I have no other mode. And Todoroki's like, yep, gotta do it. And I love that everybody notices Raichi because that's the whole point. Todoroki's like, I want to make my son rich. My son's kind of a dunce, but has a sincere heart, and I'm going to make him rich by making him the best batter in the world. And it's like, okay. And people are comparing him to other famous major league players. And I'm like, Coach Todoroki, your plan is working, you know. But I love Raichi as a character because there's no ill will with Raichi. He just wants to go up and bat and do what he loves. And I'm like, someone as so pure and simple-hearted as that, I can get on board with it. I love it. I absolutely love it. And Raichi doing the play where he jumps up to get the ball and throw it, and everybody's like, you're being too flashy, Raichi. But no, that's the point. Todoroki's like, be flashy, stand out as much as you can, because you're not getting into the university on the entrance exam. That's for sure. Todoroki's like, you're an idiot. You're not going to make it on the entrance exam. You've got to be an athlete to make this work. And so I love it. He's like, screw college. You're going to go pro. It's like, I think he will. I think he definitely will. But yeah, so Raichi up against Kosei. Kosei is such an odd person, an odd player, and I really like Kosei in this moment when he's facing Raichi, because he admits, he talks about comedians and being the straight man that plays the fool, the straight man playing the fool. It's setting up that a lot of this with Kosei is all an act. Like, he acts like an airhead, he acts arrogant, but under the surface, he's like, no, I've got a plan. He's like, I put on this persona, but he's calculating. He's a good player. And I always forget the best friend of Tamba. I always forget his name every time. He looks like the Ant King from Hunter x Hunter. That's all I can think of. But he's the one player that could beat me when we were in junior high. And I was like, aha. So if Tamba's best friend, who's a good player, is saying that Kosei is good, then he's good. He just comes across as not being good. He comes across as being kind of aloof. And him saying, and it flashes back to him with the blonde hair, which he looks good with blonde hair. He can pull off the delinquent look. He's like, what was I doing playing karaoke and slacking off? He's like, this is where I'm meant to be. I want to be here on the field. This is where I'm the most at home. And it's like, aha, okay. And he also says, he's like, I don't want an easy win. I don't want you guys to not be at your best. I want to beat you when you are the toughest. I want to be satisfied with my win. And it's like, okay. So we're setting up just how much Kosei wants this and how much he's willing to go to get it. But, oh my gosh, what a gutsy picture. And then, but he also says, this isn't like you, Kosei. Are you getting hot-headed? I like that the best friend of Tamba says Todoroki is not someone you can beat by force. Yeah, no. Todoroki is a monster. And if you try to just beat him by blunt force, not gonna work. And Todoroki proves it by just hitting the scoreboard. Just hitting the scoreboard and then just laughing. Like, ha ha ha. His maniac hyena laugh. Oh my god. Yep, just a clean hit off the fastball. Todoroki is somebody you have to strategize against. You can't just, he's a force of nature. You can't just beat him by force alone. And Miyuki even comments on it. He's like, he went for the strike carelessly. He went for that pitch too carelessly. And Miyuki thinks it's because he got that strike in the first pitch. It lured him into a false sense of security, like, oh, I can get him. And then he couldn't do it. But then, yeah, Coach Todoroki is surprised because he thinks that home run is going to crush Kosei's confidence. Nope, it does the exact opposite. A drive line into the scoreboard. I love that shot of Sonata over here being a Sears catalog model, being like, hey, like, he's just so good looking. Damn it, every character that Levi's voice actor plays is just a damn good looking character. Yeah, and he's like, oh, you're just going to score a home run on the scoreboard and think that's going to take me down? No, he's the real deal. Yeah, Raichi is. I think as dumb as a character as he is, he's as simple as a character. He's not dumb. As simple as he is. He's the real deal. He's a baseball fiend. And Kosei gets so excited by that. And Coach Todoroki's like, oh God, no. This is not what we wanted. No! And the other coach for Ichidai is like, And this line, I'm rewatching the episode now. I thought people like him only existed in manga. Like breaking the fourth wall there. Yeah. Raichi is like the character straight out of a comic book, right? He seems like a flat character that you would only see in a story. He's like, what's this feeling? And he's like, I might be in a bad spot. Okay, so wait. He's number 9, right? He's a boy. Or number 7, so we don't get to see Sonata's number. I'm like, is Sonata number 1? Is Sonata the ace? He was number 18 last time, but we cut to these other guys. Yeah. Oh. Is this what you call a crush? He's just a boy. I'm like, did we just become a BL series? Is this Sayonara game? Did we just swap over to Change World? Does Kosei have a crush on Raichi? It's the pairing I never thought would exist in this series, but here we are. What? I find it like the most odd, unrequited love story ever. It's Kosei and Raichi. Because Raichi's like, wait, what? I feel like this could be a thing. I don't know. Maybe who else would Raichi have a crush on? Not Sanada, I don't think. No. I'm like, interesting. He's a boy. I love that. Yeah, the coach is like, okay. So yeah, I wanted to see. Okay, so then the other guy, Mishima, is number 3, right? So we don't see who number 1 is. I guess it's Sanada, but Sanada was number 18 last time, so interesting. I kept wanting to see Sanada's number, but we haven't seen it yet. I feel like that's intentional. They're not showing it. They're gonna whip Sanada around in a future episode, and that number 1's gonna be on his back. I don't know, but yeah. And then Todoroki's frustrated because Raichi's home run did the exact opposite of what he wanted. It lit a fire underneath them. It did not make things better. And for Coach Todoroki to actually stand up and walk over and switch players, that's a big deal because Todoroki does not usually. He's so laid back. He usually doesn't get up. And then, yeah, he switches out. He switches Mishima and Ariba. So the score at this point is 2-1. 2-1 with Ichidai in the lead. Okay. I'm going to note that for the next set of episodes. But yeah, a crush on Raichi. What an odd development. How strange. Okay, I'm here for it. But yes, they switched the players. Okay. They swapped the players out. Interesting. That makes Yakushi even more intimidating because you have not only 2 good catchers, but you have 2 good catchers that can be pitchers too on top of Sanada. And then you have this monstrosity Raichi. Yeah. Here's the thing. I still think that unless these next set of episodes prove me wrong, I still think Yakushi is going to win because we don't really have any focus on the other Ichidai players other than Kosei. Kosei is the only one getting focus. And usually, like when they build Inashiro up, they talk about all the variety of players Inashiro has. Right? And that makes them a formidable team. So it makes you think, okay, well, they're going to be a team that we're going to play because we need to know all these multiple players. We're going to get into their backstories, things like that. With Yakushi, we have Mishima, and then we also have Akiba, and we have Raichi and Sanada. So we have 4 players there. And we know Akiba and Mishima have been like following Raichi since childhood. So that's being set up. But with Ichidai, we only really have Kosei, and the coach makes the comment that they only had a few new players. They only had a few returning players, and the rest were all a new team. So that makes me think that Yakushi's going to win, but it's like, okay, how do we overcome Kosei? Because Kosei is a lot more of a threat and a hurdle than I thought he was going to be. So I thought Kosei was arrogant, was just going to get taken down instantly, but that does not seem to be the case. Curious. And then again, we don't see Sanada's number. That feels intentional. Sanada was number 18 last time, so I'm curious. I also just love that Raichi on the field, he's just like a little monkey. Just goes around. I love him. Again, if I get a jersey for this game, if I got an actual Ace of the Diamond baseball jersey, it would have Todoroki and it would be Raichi on the back, for sure. But yeah, interesting. And they're like, Kosei, you're acting weird and you're way too happy in the dugout. And he's like, how can I be happy after giving up a home run? And then they're like, then what's with the smile? It's because he's fell in love. And then, yeah, he flashes back to the karaoke bar and singing karaoke and being like, why was I even there? He's like, this is where I'm at home at. Okay. So, yeah, this set of episodes was really good. Such a strange set of episodes. I'm worried about Miyuki. They made the comment that Furuya might not get to play next game because of his injury. And I'm worried about Miyuki, too, so I don't know. I would be okay if they did Sawamura and Nori. That would be a very good callback because it's the finals next for Sato. And if you think about it, during the Inashiro finals, our 2 pitchers that struggled and suffered the most from that loss were Nori and Sawamura, who have the most to gain by doing well in the finals of this game. It would be a nice bookend if at the end of Inashiro versus Sato, Sawamura and Nori were at their lowest points from that loss. And if we could take that and transform it against, I think, Yakushi, and then win to go to nationals, and it prove that they'd grown so much over the course of this season and were able to go to nationals from that moment. Now, whether or not that happens, I don't know. God, if they lose this game too, I'm going to be like, really? Really? Just can't get a win? Okay. Cool. But yeah, so interesting. Interesting indeed. I think that it would not surprise me if they play Sawamura and Nori in the coming game. They might even start out with Nori. That would be, Nori had a really good, but Nori's more of a closer, so maybe not. I don't know. I just feel like if you're going to round out this finals with Yakushi in the next, after this game with Inashiro is over, or Ichidai, not Inashiro, but it would be a nice bookend that you had Sawamura and Nori at their lowest points, and if they win, having Sawamura and Nori at their highest points, making it through this final. It'd be a nice parallel and a nice bookend to the season, but who knows if we'll get that or not. I am worried about Miyuki. I'm a little cautious about Furuya. Maybe they'll start with Furuya pitching in that final game and then switch him out really early, like 3 or 4 innings in. Be like, let's get Furuya going, get some momentum, and then switch him out and keep the momentum going before it, diffuses. I don't know, but I am really excited about this game against Yakushi and Ichidai, mainly because I get to see Yakushi play more. That's my hope. But yeah, I'm really curious, y'all, of what's going to happen. So I'm curious to know your thoughts down below, what you guys thought of these games. These 3 episodes were really good, and I'm very happy. I'm happy with the headspace Sawamura's in. I'm happy with where Furuya's at, aside from his ankle. I'm nervous about Miyuki because he had a really good set of episodes, but yikes. And then Raichi and Kosei, the crack pairing I never thought I'd have. But in the meantime, I hope y'all have a wonderful week. Please stay safe, take care, and yeah, I'll be back next week with episodes 37, 38, and 39 of Season 2 of Ace of the Diamond.